The other half's back there.
My other half's back there in his Alphonse shirt. He'll be in Alphonse later today, so make sure you drop by the Arizona Cosplay booth. Come look at our props, come look at our costumes, and then...
Yeah, and I'm Kyle. My tag is Ravencraft Cosplay. And I, along with you guys and a couple other people, we all co-founded Arizona Causeplay. It's a newer group, and we focus around bringing charity to the community. So what I do is I build stuff like this. Like there's one of these sitting at the booth for sale right now. And then 70% of whatever we make goes directly to the charity. 10% goes to getting our 501c3 official. And then the other 20% is what it costs me to make it.
Yep,
So we do our best to stay transparent and open. We're doing the food bank for the foreseeable future.
Yep, Southern Arizona.
Because they really need the help right now.
Yep.
But yeah, that's not what we're here for, but we just wanted to let
give you
everybody
some
know.
background on who we are. So let's get into our presentation.
And qualifications, I wore mine.
Right, and he wore his. I did not. I'll be Edward a little later, but yeah. So our presentation is on how and when to incorporate that 3D printing, those 3D printed elements into cosplay. So how many of you have tried to 3D print for cosplay? Okay. How many have tried to do foam work for cosplay? Okay, all right. So that's kind of, Kyle is more of, our 3D printing guru, and I do a lot more foam work. So this is a perfect panel for us to come together on. So.
Here's another one of our members right here.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Right at the back.
Yeah, he's another one of our members. That's Andre, also the Monkey King. Is that his character?
Yes, Wukong.
Wukong.
Yes,
okay.
and that's his handle is Ronan Kasai on Instagram. If you want to grab him up too, or take a picture with him later.
Yep. So.
Anyways.
Yeah. So these are some examples of purely 3D printed props. So the one on your guys's, I guess that's your left-hand side. Yeah.
Yeah, yours are yours.
Yeah. Oh, duh. I'm looking at it. It's for me too. So those are helmets and then weapon props that were purely 3D printed. There is a little bit of foam that you have to incorporate sometime to get the fit on a helmet right. So you can put, like I used upholstery foam to do that, and then
I use soundproofing foam for mine.
Oh, okay.
It works really well. And then the better you get at it, the better you can get it scaled directly for your head. But certain helmets, you don't want it directly scaled for your head because the opening isn't big enough unless they separate.
Yep.
But
so,
that's
3D printing, it's always better to go a little bit bigger rather than a little bit smaller, because one of the differences between 3D printing and foam work is that foam work you can manipulate, it's got a little bit of give, but 3D prints do not. So this helmet right here, the Mighty Thor helmet, when I put it on my head, when I did my test ring, it was great, but then it all together, when I put it on, I have to squish it on, versus like his Alphonse helmet, we can kind of bend a little bit. So.
Which, if anybody has any questions while we're going through this suit is going to be part of our display, which is why I wore it. If you need to see any of the pieces more up close, I can walk around and have people look at it.
So here is
an example.
An example of, so as you can tell on Kyle, his suit is like cloth. But
spandex suit.
Yeah, spandex. So the elements that were incorporated in order to really get it to give that really good, awesome Green Goblin look, some of them are right here. So
those are all the parts that detach.
Yep.
For storage, and as you guys know, travel is tough with cosplay.
Yes.
So I made them detach so they can be all stored in one tote, and I don't have to worry about it. Like these shoulder pieces, they're a little bit hollow, so I don't want them to be smashed and bent and ripped. So I made them detach.
Yep.
And it's relatively simple to reattach them. And we can, any questions about attaching 3D prints to cosplay, we can talk about at the end.
Yeah, and so with some of that too, because we've done some travel, as Husky Hubby Cosplay, we've done some travel, and it's a lot easier to travel with a foam build than it is to travel with a large 3D printed build. So when thinking about incorporating that 3D printing into your cosplays, kind of think about what pieces might need to squish. If you're planning to go, like we just went to New York Comic Con and we went to a convention in Texas, and so we had to bring our builds in checked luggage, and as anyone who's traveled knows, you know, the luggage guys are just trying to get their jobs done, and they're flinging things around and flinging things here, and things are dropping, and so your cosplay pieces that are 3D printed are not as protected because they can't bend and squish.
They're more prone to breakage.
Yep.
Than like a foam piece would be.
Yep, but if you only go to local cons and you can 3D print a whole big build and just know that, you know, it's not going to squish and it's not going to bend. And the thing that you get with 3D prints that you don't get as much with foam is detail.
Yeah,
So
these were the example I was using yesterday. These gauntlets, to make them in foam would take, I couldn't fathom how long that would take you to individually
to Dremel all that,
all the detail and
yep.
get it as accurate as this. It
Yep.
would be insane amounts of work, and this took me 5 hours to 3D print. So
And then how long to finish?
actually I cheated with this one.
Oh, okay.
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't even finish that one?
No, I just got done paint.
Okay, was it resin printed?
No.
FDM?
Yep.
Okay, and just in case
I got away
you're,
with it.
Yeah, okay. Just in case you're not like fully immersed in the 3D printing world yet, because I'm just learning too. Like I said, I'm normally a foam smith. FDM printers are the printers that take the filament and
We
like.
have an example of that.
Oh, you can come check out the Arizona Causeplay booth, and the one that we have running is an FDM printer. So that just, I wish I could tell you what FDM meant.
Fusion deposition modeling.
That. Fusion deposition modeling, but basically it melts your plastic and layer by layer it adds it on.
Yeah, I always tell people picture a hot glue gun. If you laid down a piece of hot glue and then you laid down another piece of hot glue on top of that, how it would slowly stack and make layers. That's
Yep.
basically what it is.
And then resin printing, you get a lot more detail with a lot less need to finish because it uses resin, but also because it uses resin, it's like smellier and
it's more toxic and
more
harder to work with.
Harder to work with.
You know, so those are just examples of different kinds of printing. If anybody didn't know, the
Yeah,
different types
so-
of printing that are available
Yep.
to general public. There's several more, but we won't go into all those.
Right, yeah.
Because they're
and
not generally available.
Yeah, and so, but still, with those, if you're FDM printing or resin printing, that still is going to give you better immediate detail than foam work will. So that's kind of one of the things also to think about. Is this piece I want to have for my cosplay going to need a lot of detail, or can I get the same shapes with foam?
Another key point is this piece of detail I want for my cosplay going to hurt me as I walk with it? So like a neck piece for this Green Goblin, this is an example of when not to incorporate a 3D print. Because I do not have anything under the neck because I put a cloth here. And this was specifically just made just so it would go over this and cover that. Because a neck piece would be miserable and I'm not very good with foam. So I could, if I were to make a neck piece, I would make it out of foam. Because you wouldn't want the hard plastic under here, and I would look like Michael Keaton's Batman as the Green Goblin. Ah ha ha, Spider-Man.
Yeah,
and not be able to turn, and it's miserable to wear a full costume of it. I do it. There's an example of that later. It's not comfortable and it's not fun to do, but the look you get is incredible with it too. So sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not.
Yeah. And so this, as Kyle
Yes.
said, that's one of the times where it's not worth it.
Yeah.
If it's going to impair your mobility, is as you
If
guys
it's
know,
going to physically hurt you.
if it's going to hurt you, or if it's going to impact that comfortability when wearing it, you don't
That's
want to
actually
do
another
it.
reason why these aren't fully attached, is if they were fully attached, I wouldn't be able to move my shoulder very much. So since they're just on buckles and straps, they can move all the way around and it moves naturally with me. So these are okay, otherwise you want this in foam. because it would hurt with these
Yep.
little pieces here. They would
They
jab
dig
into your
into you.
collarbone and everything, because I tried to initially attach it and it just wasn't going to work. So that's another thing is hold your piece to you, see if it's going to feel good. If it's not going to feel good, you might want to make it out of something else.
Or incorporate a little bit of foam onto the 3D piece,
Yes.
similar to how you do it with a helmet. If
Yep.
you've got a piece that feels a little diggy, a little scratchy,
Yes, you could do that.
can attach a piece of foam. So the greatest
For
thing about,
padding.
yep, for padding, the greatest thing about cosplay, again, as we all know, is that you can make it your own. There are so many different mediums and so many different materials to be able to put these things together so that you can,
I'm going to take this around the room and show you.
yeah, perfect.
Speaking of padding, I'm going to
Yeah.
show everybody what's inside this.
Yeah, so Kyle's going to
It's a
show.
mess inside, but, so I use soundproofing foam and then EVA foam.
Talk louder.
Well, I was going to take it around the edge first.
But then you have to say the same thing to everyone every time.
All right. I got it.
Or you,
Yeah,
I will carry it and you can tell them.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. So what I use, it's a mess inside the helmet. Don't judge my messy wiring. But I use soundproofing foam for the helmet piece because it's really comfortable on your head and it breathes fairly decently actually. And then EVA foam to back it up against my head so it doesn't shake all around, because you can imagine a helmet like that. It's big this way and really big depth-wise. It would just move all around your head. So, like the one I'm selling at our booth is not padded yet, and I will give suggestions on how to do that to whoever ends up buying it, because it's got to be fit to your head. You can't just pad it for everybody, because everybody's head is different, and you want it to move with you, and you want it to, like when you look down, you want the helmet to look down, not stay looking up. And that's a very common thing that can happen with something like that, is if you were to not pad it or not pad it correctly, it'll either sit super high or it'll look down when you're not, or it'll look up when you're not. And it's not something that's, it can be very frustrating if it's not padded correctly. So again, any questions about that I can answer later as well. And if not here, I will also be doing the cosplay roundtable from 3 to 6.
And we'll be out and about
Yes.
sometimes and at the Arizona Cosplay booth sometimes too. So
Yes,
feel
and we-
free to come see
Answer
us
any
anytime.
questions.
We love to answer questions.
Yeah.
So here's some more examples of some incorporation. On the left side is
My red hood, which you saw that the only two pieces were there that are printed are the helmet and the armor piece. And that's all that's printed in that whole outfit, aside from like the weapons and things like that are printed. But that's all that I printed for that, and I
and that's
wanted
all
to
that
keep
that
it,
one needs.
Yeah, I wanted to keep it very simple, so it's very mobile. And that's really all that the Red Hood needs is an armor piece and a helmet. He's good to go. And then on the right side, you'll see Iron Man. That's an example of a fully 3D printed piece, and like miserable to wear. But the effect of it, it looks just like you're coming out of the movies when I'm walking around, and that's just on a PVC mannequin. So that has no like security to me. So that's all padded to me, so when I move, it moves like Iron Man. It's a more bulky suit than like his newer ones, but again, I did the same things with the flaps, so they move a little bit on the arms, and they move up and down when I move, but it's one of those that you sacrifice comfort in 3D printing for detail, because it has little hexagon plates all over it. I don't know if you guys can kind of see those on the chest piece. To do that in foam would take countless hours to
Yes.
individually scribe each one of those hexagons in. You could do it with an X-Acto knife and you can do a heat gun and it opens it up.
That though, this, if I were trying to make those hexagon patterns and I wanted them, again, as Kyle said, that detail you're not going to get the same way as 3D printing. That would almost have to be dremeled around a stencil, and then
To get it perfect.
to get that definition, because you can score
Yeah.
and then heat open things, but depending on how you score, you almost have to make like a V-shaped
Yeah.
valley in order to really get that
get it to fully
definition to fully open. And so that's where the Dremel comes in. But trying to get super straight lines, in a pattern that's supposed to look very uniform, especially on like a mechanical piece. That I see head shakes. You guys know you're not going to be able to do that in the same way with a
Well, the time you'd
foam.
put into it would be way more than
Well,
just
and
me
yes.
printing it out. And you still have to go through the sanding process with 3D printing. Which
Spoiler
takes-
alert, that sucks.
It does suck. But there's sanding and foam work too. Not as much. You're like, no, I don't do it.
I don't do it. I don't sand my. I mean, I have a hand sander, but I
Yeah.
use my Dremel for a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
use
mean,
my
you
Dremel
have
for a
to
lot.
bevel the corners and everything. There's a lot of that, but it's not.
With the Dremel.
It's not as tedious.
Yeah, it's not hand sanding.
as
You don't
sanding
don't
is.
really hand sand in
Yeah.
foam work, or at least I don't.
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
Yeah, so here's another example of incorporating some 3D prints, but mostly foam. So as you can see on the left-hand side, those are our full builds, the weapons, and then the weapons, and then our helmets are 3D printed, and then on each of them there's a little bit. I'm sorry, those are foam. Nope, those are 3D printed. Like, jumbled in
Yeah,
the
your
brain.
helmets are 3D printed.
Yeah, our helmets are 3D printed. That is not foam. And then our armor, or the gauntlets, these ones are 3D printed because I wanted that detail on them. And full disclosure, the seams aren't great because these broke in our luggage. So,
Well, they're silk, aren't they?
no, these ones aren't silk.
Oh, okay. I was
Nope.
going to say silk PLA is also very brittle, so you definitely don't want to print in silk if you're going to use it for costuming.
Yeah, none of these prints are silk
Okay, yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
I learned that
Yeah,
lesson.
silk
Yes.
looks great, but it does not hold together well.
No. And so that element broke in transit, whereas like the rest of us maybe looks a little bit wrinkly, but with time you can kind of work it out. And then here on my belt piece, those circles are 3D printed because again, that's detailed. Circles are like notoriously hard to get.
Even with the stencil.
Yeah, even with the stencil to get like a good clean cut, and then you again have to spend so much time dremeling them that being able to print all 6 of the squares that you can't zoom in.
No, I was going to show right here, there's also a lot of detail on these as well.
Yep, so
I didn't know if this would work on them.
Oh yeah. Being able to print these out saved me so much time. And to attach these, because attachments are important,
Yes, attachments are
I just use industrial strength Velcro. And so when I am traveling with this, all of these pieces Velcro apart, and
So
then
you
can
can
go back
stack them
together.
nicely.
So I can stack them nicely, and then they won't kind of break on me.
Yeah, it'll get snapped.
Okay, here's another example of 3D printed elements that are incorporated more on those accessory pieces. So Bowser's hat here, I 3D printed, and this one I think was silk 3D printed.
But that's okay for something like that. You just don't want it for something that's going to be mobile on
Yep.
your helmet or a van brace or anything like that.
And then if you guys are also, so how many in here have their own 3D printer right now? Okay, so almost everyone. For those of you who don't, if you're local, more to the Mesa area, prior to us getting our own 3D printer, I actually was able to reserve time at the Mesa Public Library. And in their maker spaces, they have 3D printers, and that's where I printed this one and these little spikes for Bowser, which we didn't bring with us for this con, but if you see it on our Instagram, you can see all of the different spikes that I made, because cones are also a notoriously hard shape to do out of foam really well. So if you've got, 15 different cones on one outfit, you want all 15 to look uniform.
There's an example of that later.
Yes, there's an example of that, I think possibly in the next slide. And then when you see our Alphonse I will eventually redo so that all of his cones are 3D printed.
Yeah,
The
and I
base,
think you had talked about this piece you wanted to 3D print as well, the piece that comes
oh,
out.
like the grill?
Yeah.
Yep. So there's a grill piece. I actually don't have a picture of Alphonse in here because he doesn't have any 3D prints as of now.
Yeah.
So these are just elements you can add, including this tree. this detailed tree on Heimdall.
That's in the same vein as this. It would be so
Yeah.
hard to carve that out, or to individually lay little foam dowels in to make it.
Yeah, and like funny little anecdote, we took this to New York Comic Con, and apparently Timberlands are like super popular in New Jersey and in New York, and so many people thought he was like a Timberland warrior instead of Heimdall because it looks apparently like the Timberland logo. So regionally, that's not gonna hit the same here because I was like, what are Timberlands? Aren't they work boots, right? Yeah. So, but anyway, anecdote over. There's no way I could do that out of foam. I probably sit there and Dremel for half my life, and it still would look raggedy. So I would prefer it to look nice and clean, and so we 3D printed that. And then, as we all know how the con crunch feels, it's currently attached with duct tape, because sometimes duct tape is the answer, right? Say it with me. Duct tape is the answer. Duct tape is the answer.
Jeremy, don't you encourage her.
What's the answer? Duct tape. Yeah. Did you want to talk about your ears?
Yeah, I can talk about the ears.
Yeah.
So those are the ears for my girlfriend's Squirrel Girl outfit. She wasn't sure how she was going to do the ears because we got a pattern for the tail, and I made the tail out of foam, which is why we don't have a picture of that. But the ears, I thought to myself, I'm sure I can just print just a rounded shape and we can just stuff it up into the fabric. And she said, I don't know if that's going to work. And so I printed out some wolf ears, and then I scaled them, I squished them down and widened them out. So you can mess with the scaling in a 3D printer. So I squished them with the Z-axis and widened them with the X-axis. And then I printed them out. The first set didn't work, they were way too big. So I used that information to go back in and size it down until I got what I liked. And then she went through and patterned a sleeve around it and then sewed it up. Actually, those aren't even sewed. I actually hot glued those together.
Hot glue is also the answer.
Hot glue is the answer when you don't know how to sew. Speaking of which, actually, if anybody's interested in these, this whole cape is not sewn at all. It's all hot glue. So, I don't know. I'll just take it a second.
Hot glue and fabric, BFFs. Also, iron-on interface or fusible interfacing.
I'll bring it around. You go ahead, Danielle.
Okay. He's going to bring around to show you how he hot glued that. Hot glue.
I can't sew, and sometimes you don't have a sewing machine access, and you can make something like this without sewing.
And again, if you want to use a sewing machine or a serger and you don't have one and you're a Mesa resident, Makerspace, I'm going to plug the library because one, libraries are amazing and we need to keep them because they're so awesome. And two, you can go use a sewing machine and a serger at the Mesa Public Libraries too. They have makerspaces and it's really awesome. So as Kyle, I just heard him say, sometimes hot glue is also the answer, especially when you're working in multiple mediums. CA glue, cyanoacetate, I just know it as super glue, is very, very good to bond plastics to things. Kyle tends to use CA glue to attach everything to everything. So like those panels that are on his spandex suit, he used super glue with that, or CA glue, an activator. I prefer contact cement, but again, I am a foam artist at heart. Contact cement is one of the best things to use for foam. You just have to be really careful in our Arizona heat. So if you come see Alphonse, I probably should have had a picture of him. He's 3 years old at this point, and his seams are just starting to come apart. But again, he's been squished in and out of suitcases too. So that's one of the major benefits of foam work is to use, is that it's more flexible.
But I also... Oh yeah, absolutely.
As he's showing some more of the Green Goblin, I'll just go over some of his Goblin props. This picture in the middle is to show that cosplay, or that 3D printed elements on a cosplay can make an impact, whether or not they're huge like this Daedric, his Daedric armor staff, or small. So when he's out in the Green Goblin, Kyle, do you have a goblin ball with you?
I do.
Okay, perfect. So he'll show you that the size of the, it's probably not called a goblin ball. I probably just totally outed myself as not as up on the Spider-Man lore as it should be, but what is it called? Is it a goblin bomb?
It is, but I don't like the term bomb because then they don't let me bring it in places.
So goblin ball is perfect. Problem solved.
I prefer ball. Actually.
Yep. So the impact of this has the same amounts, like.
Oh, in the. So okay, yeah, I get what you're talking about. So my Daedric axe is 5'6", and it's a full on. Oh yeah. I forgot, I'm not near the microphone. My Daedric axe is 5'6", and it is, it's a full-size replica of the Great Axe from Skyrim. I built that, and that's the middle picture, and right next to it you can see this. And this has the same impact on this cosplay as that does on that one, because the look on people's faces when I pull this out of the bag and then light it up is the same as that. And I carry a couple of them on here just to, in case you need them for photo ops. Just like, well, we're talking about props. Something small like this can make a huge difference in your prop. Like as a Green Goblin, I'm holding Spider-Man's mask, and you can pull it out of the bag and. Yeah, exactly. That's not necessarily, that doesn't necessarily have much to do with this panel, but just those little
cosplay
pieces.
tips. You get little extra tips.
Yeah,
Did you know?
accent
Did you know
pieces
we're coming
are great.
for little extra tips?
Little extra tips.
Woohoo!
I'll actually be building one of these at between 3 and 6, maybe 2 of these. I have enough to build 2, and then one of these as well. It won't be a finished piece; it'll just be a raw piece, so that everyone can see finished versus raw and what they look like.
So come to the cosplay roundtable.
Yeah. We are trying to push the cosplay roundtable because we want it to come back next year. It's a really cool idea, and anybody who's at the roundtable doing their thing, feel free to ask them any questions you want. Sit down, talk with them, and that's the idea behind it.
Yep. Yeah. No, you're fine. We plug away.
Plug away.
We love engagement in all panels because the things that make cons continue are panels, guests, all of that. So basically, this slide is to demonstrate that sometimes you only have the time, the resources, the knowledge to do one part of your build 3D printed. So think about what thing is going to have the most impact. And size.
Did you talk about how you attach the Heimdall sword?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I will. Yep.
Yeah, I want to make sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yep.
Go ahead, never mind.
Look
Sorry
at
about
that. He can read minds, or just knows what our PowerPoint looks like.
Hey.
So this is a picture of Heimdall on the right side, or Heimdall's sword. It's actually called Hofund. I do know that because I did do this build. And that is also a 5.5-foot sword. So I was building a sword that was taller than I am. So I'm only 5'3". And I needed to make it, as I said, we travel. So I needed to make this sword able to go on an airplane. So it is printed, and again, we have a smaller printer too. We're only a 1 printer family right now. It's like a 220 by 220 by 200 build plate, which sounds like a lot of largish numbers, but I mean, it's like this big. When you look at it, it's like smaller than a piece of paper. And then it only goes probably about this high. So trying to piece together 5.5 feet of sword it's gonna be a lot. That one took 43 hours to print. So again, a little bit of knowledge on 3D printing versus foam work. There are a lot of things in foam work that you can like super con crunch in like 12 hours, right? Like I can be like, bing, bang, boom, this is done. 3D prints do not follow that same schedule. You have to spend time to print them, and then you have to sand them, which takes 5 years in a day. And then you have to prime them and wait for your primer to dry, and then you have to sand them again, and then you have to prime them again. And then Kyle's like, oh, it's so fast. And I'm like, this is taking half my life. But anyway, the point of that rant is that I had to make this into pieces. So whole fund comes apart in 4 different pieces, and then I've inset steel rods that thread together in order for it to have stability. And then I'll go back, and then there were a lot of seams, and it still did. Yeah,
you'll get when
when you have to put them together, and then you have to thread them together, and you can't kind of melt them together. So, ready? Duct tape is the answer. That is chrome duct tape. So when we got it to where we needed to go, that is all chrome duct tape that I put on, gives it stability, and it also looks shiny like a sword, and you really can't tell. And again, our whole philosophy on cosplay is that cosplay is for everyone, at any skill level, at any size, for any character. And you do what you can do to the best of your ability. And so if your cosplay is held together with duct tape because you don't want people to see seams, you cosplay, that's awesome, best cosplay. If your cosplay is flawless and you can't see a single seam in anything because you're like a god of 3D printing, you're also, your cosplay is valid, so. Duct tape is the answer.
I'm on the train. If you cosplay in a Spirit Halloween outfit,
you're cosplaying.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, you went out and you tried.
Yep. If you bought it, if you made it, if you bought it, if you made it.
Yep.
If your mom gifted it to you 3 years ago and it still fits, 1, awesome. 2, wear that. Represent your character, represent your fandom, because we love seeing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. So these are just right back in. I don't have diagnosed ADHD, but I probably have undiagnosed ADHD, so woohoo!
I definitely have diagnosed ADHD.
But I'm the one who looks like a squirrel right now. Yes, so these are the weapons. These are unfinished props, and the weapons were just a lot easier to do 3D printed builds than they are to do foam props for, especially when you, again, need that detail. So if you can tell, there's a lot of intricate detail in like the sides of Mjolnir. There's a lot of cracks in there that also need to like hold up structurally. And so trying to get those cracks in a foam part that can get kind of floppy and wobbly, just 3D printing was a lot easier.
I think to do that with foam would be to put another layer of translucent foam inside it, so that once the cracks, it would show it through the light.
Yeah, and that doesn't always diffuse great.
No, it doesn't. But one thing I could think that you could do would be, just as far as what we're talking about today, would be just 3D printing these pieces here, and then attaching them to a Mjolnir that you made out of either
foam,
foam, cardboard. So I've seen people make them out of duct tape, and they look fine. Yeah, it's an interesting. I'm not on the duct tape.
Duct tape is the answer. You said it. You guys heard it. Duct tape is the answer. Oh, is it, Kyle? It's the answer. But yeah,
CA glue is the answer.
Yeah, we're gonna.
We'll agree to disagree.
We'll agree to disagree there.
You hate CA glue too, don't you?
You know, I am not that big of a fan of CA glue, but again, I am a natural foam smith, and CA glue and foam are not always friends.
So speaking of all the triangles or all the cones looking the same.
Speaking of all the cones and of needing things to be mobile and of duct tape, this is, and these pictures aren't great, they're a little dark, but this is the Bowser shell that we use for Bowser, for Wedding Bowser and Wedding Peach. And the original iteration had spikes that I made out of foam. They were all wonky, they looked like half floppy kind of ice cream cone things. There's pictures on our Instagram, I should have included that one. If we do this again, of what it looked like prior.
For sure.
But then we got our 3D printer, and I was like, I am going to print all of these spikes, and now they are removable, and all of Bowser's spikes look as they should. Nice and uniform, nice and symmetrical.
Because it's a repeatable process. You can just push print again.
Yep. And then we didn't want to make the whole shell out of print out of plastic because plastic again doesn't bend. We can bend this shell.
I've seen it before. You can collapse it almost all the way down, like
not,
on itself.
Yeah, not quite. This one's got enough bend that it can get squished into a soft-sided suitcase, and it's like the largest suitcase that you're allowed to bring on an airplane, which, pro tip, if you're traveling with all your cosplay stuff and have like a booth, you'll probably need 4 of those bags. Not that I know from experience, but you know. We did have to take 4 bags to get Alphonse, Heimdall, Bowser, and Peach, and then just, you know, like clothes to wear.
Yeah.
So you need those. Can't just walk around. Well, you could, but I think people in Texas would have thought we were weird outside the con walking around in a big suit.
All.
Oh, you do? You grocery shop like this?
I mean, I have before. If I'm leaving a convention and I'm not feeling like taking it off, I'll just go. There's photos of me at the mall with my Power Ranger Mandalorian on, and I'm going up the escalator with my Sword of Darkness.
Escalator photos are always top tier in cosplay. They're always my favorite to capture.
Mary put it on, I think it was a YouTube short with "Let's Go to the Mall" from
from How I Met Your Mother. Let's go to the mall.
And then as soon as it plays, I like look over. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Little cosplay tip there. You know, like put all your fun cosplay videos to music, and they'll be even more fun. But back to our panel. Let's get serious. Incorporating the 3D printed spikes on Bowser took him up to level 10. Like he was like level 8 before, because if you can imagine my husband back there in the corner as Bowser, like he's a big guy, so Bowser is a big fan.
I might say he's your husky hubby.
I might say he's my husky hubby. So weird. If you are wondering, you could go to Husky Hubby Cosplay on Instagram, and then you could maybe see. If you weren't here for the beginning of the panel, that is our Instagram tag. And then Kyle is Ravencraft Cosplay, and we're here with Arizona Cosplay, because I know we had some people trickle in. So,
I think that's close to the end of it, right?
I think it is.
Yep.
So, Bowser.
And this is almost just the right amount of time.
Look at that. Questions.
We've done good.
Woohoo! Okay, I see a hand.
Yeah.
I got a couple questions. The first one is like, what kind of infills you use for 3D printing?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I tend to use only about 8% infill with 3 walls.
Let me just reiterate, just in case you guys didn't hear. The question was, what type of infill does Kyle use for the 3D prints?
Yeah, I use about 8% infill with 3 walls. Your infill doesn't really determine the structural integrity, it's more the wall count. That is, like, this is 8% infill, 3 walls, it's very solid. And I've dropped this one a couple times and it hasn't broken. I know a lot of people say that PETG or ABS are easier to sand and stuff. I'm still on the PLA train currently. It isn't, that's another thing about incorporating 3D prints into cosplay is heat. Take that into account. Because if I leave this in the car in Arizona, I will come back and it will be flat.
So sad.
So, yeah. Yes, but that's the infill I have. What's one of your other questions?
The other one was about
the hot glue?
Hot glue.
Yeah.
Do you like kind of go through the patterns and kind of put it where the seam line would be?
Yeah, I basically do it like you would.
So the question is, you're good. In my real life, I work in education, so if you can't tell. The question is regarding how Kyle applies that hot glue in order to get some really good kind of like seam lines and that kind of thing. So
Yes. Okay. In my real life, I'm a contractor, so I'm not great at public speaking anyways, or the repeating the question. Yeah. I just assume everybody hears what I hear. What I do is I'll pattern something out just like in your sewing, and I do roughly know how to sew-ish on a sewing machine, but our sewing machine was down and I didn't really have a lot of time, so this cape was made in about an hour. So what I did was I took another cape I had, patterned out the hood, took some scissors and chopped it all up to make it look raggedy. And then I put the seams where they would go, and I left seam allowance like you would in sewing, and gooped it with hot glue and just pushed it closed really tight, and then pushed up on it a little bit to close the seam up so it wasn't just gooping out of the top. And so it may change your dimensions a little to do that, but it's best to have more than less because it won't stick with more or without more. You really want the hot glue to almost seep through the fabric, so it's grabbing all those fibers and holding it to itself.
And then another thing that you can do too, if potentially burning your fingers with hot glue is not your jam, you can use, if you're doing fabric to fabric, it's called heat and bond. It's like a,
It's hard.
oh, you mean like if you're using hot glue,
Yeah.
you can have silicone.
Yeah,
You can protect your fingers too.
I don't,
But
you can.
you know, if you don't even want to mess with hot glue because you think hot glue makes a mess,
It does.
like me, I don't like hot glue. But I will use fusible fabric not interfacing, but it's the fusible heat and bond like hem tape.
Oh,
And
it
so,
goes together.
yep, you can. It's not like as quick of a process.
Yeah.
And like you don't generally have it on hand like you would hot glue, but you can get that from like your craft supply store, and you put it where your hem would be, and then you use an iron, and it's essentially a glue that melts that
It's almost like
fabric.
an iron-on.
It's like an iron-on
The-
hot
the
glue, I guess.
iron-on
It's an
on both
adhesive,
sides,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
It's like two-sided tape that
It's a
you
really good
iron
feeling.
on. Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I love heat and bond because hems are also
I
really
mean, I'm
annoying
cheap,
sewing.
so I'm gonna continue to use hot glue.
Oh, right. You know, again, you cosplay where your budget allows.
Yep.
Any more questions?
When you're sanding it down, are you hand sanding it, or can you actually always use the tools to sand it?
Okay, so the question was, when I'm sanding down 3D prints, yes, I can do that sometimes. Do I hand sand it or do I use tools? So it depends on the piece. So a piece like this Green Goblin, I have a Harbor Freight hand sander or palm sander that I use, but I use it on a low setting, and I won't stay on one spot very long. So if it's particularly rough, I'll do it first, I'll move on, and then I'll slowly come back to it, and if it needs more, I'll continue. And I start with 80 grit, then I move to 120 grit.
Using the palm sander still.
Yes, using the palm sander still. And then I hand sand it with 220 and get all those little lines with 80 and 120 that I couldn't get to with the palm sander. And then I'll filler prime it and sand it to 320 and see if it needs anything else.
And on 320, you're using hand sand.
Yes, yeah. Anything after the 120 is all hand sand. But it doesn't take that long once you're there because you just kind of give it a little dusting. It doesn't have to be all the way because you're going to filler prime and you're going to redo things. And when you go for your final one, I would wet sand it with 320 or 400. And that's how I get these results. And if you want to see some of this stuff, you can feel free to catch me on my way out and I can show you any of my props so you can see my finished work and everything like that.
Come see us also. We're at Arizona
Yes.
Causeplay, the booth on the way back out, kind of towards the entrance, I guess.
It's got a big arcade game set
Yeah,
up.
it's the arcade
You
game.
had to
one.
walk past it to get here.
Yep. And coming from someone who's more of a novice at the 3D printing piece of it, it's gonna feel like it takes forever, but you get really good at understanding, because Kyle's the one who taught me, at understanding where to kind of put that pressure with the palm sander, and then what you can do palm sanding versus what you can do hand sanding. Yeah.
You're always going to have trouble on the rings on the top of like a helmet. They're always going to be pronounced, and you're always going to have to sand those more or fill those more. I don't know if you've done helmets yet. Okay, so with this one, I had to print him like this on the face, so he's cut off right here and the face printed upward. So in the cheeks and everything, the layer lines are particularly bad on the top of a 3D print. Because when the 3D print comes up to the end, the lines get bigger to account for like a dome. So spheres are always tough on a 3D print, even just like they are in foam, they're tough in a different way. So you have to fill those with either a Bondo or a spot putty or filler primer, or you can sand them all down. Like there's so many ways to finish these, but that's just my process that I use.
Yeah, and if you don't have a Kyle in your pocket, YouTube also is very great for learning how to do some of these things. It'll teach you too about the best orientations to print your to print your things at, because sometimes if you're looking for a ton of detail, like on his, and hopefully you printed this the way I'm going to talk about it. On this, you don't want to print it sitting like this, because then all of your layer lines are going to be like up here on the top. Yep, and so it's going to look very clunky and very sharp in a bad way.
So this one I printed basically just like this. A little less stable on the print bed, but it kept all the lines way nicer, and I didn't have a bunch of stuff to fix up here. And otherwise I would have had all this to fix with what I was just talking about, the stepping lines, where the top comes in. And these, something else you can do with a 3D print, these were actually way too big on me. So I heated them up with a heat gun and kind of formed them to my hand real quick. Again, I'm not afraid of heat. So
you put a glove under there.
Yeah, probably wear some protection between you and it. I'm not telling you not to. I'm pretty heat resistant.
Wear your PPE. That was way louder. Sorry, but wear your personal protective equipment when you're sanding things. Disclaimer. Disclaimer. Duct tape is not the answer for PPE. Medical necessities are not solved by duct tape. But truly, wear your PPE when you're doing, like, it's super easy to like sit here and be like, oh, well, I'm just gonna sand it real fast. But things like Bondo, things like teeny tiny, I mean, we all have microplastics in us, but we don't want to add more, you know?
I'm definitely guilty of not wearing my PPE all the time.
Right, and so your lungs probably they're probably like, Kyle, why?
Yeah, you definitely should wear PPE all the time.
Yes.
Take the extra steps.
Because you don't want all of that stuff building up in your lungs, and, you know, the chemicals aren't great, but they look nice. So, you know, just disclaimer, we're telling you to wear your PPE. Do as we say, not as we do.
Anyways, do you feel I answered your question pretty? Okay. I just want to make sure. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, question.
Have I ever worked with CPU?
Yeah.
I have not. The flexibles, I want to. I have the machines for it now. It's just, it's an intimidating process because I know that it can destroy a machine if you don't do it right. But I would love to make some more flexible armors, and once I start doing that, I will be able to do more panels on stuff like that and be able to, because then my 3D printing incorporation goes much further. But I personally have not worked with CPU yet. I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about with the intimidation. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
So I now got a question, obviously, for your PPEs. What type of PPEs would you normally use?
I'll let you take this one. I'm not a model of this.
So when I am working with foam, when I cut it, I don't use any PPE because you're not really generating particulates. When I heat seal it, I tend to have, I have just a respirator, and it's got
like a general painting one, right?
Well, there's the general painting one that is more for vapor, and then when I'm sanding, I use the one that's more for particulates, because the vapor cartridge is not going to protect you from like the little pieces going in. Those are the particulates. So I tend to switch between the two. I detach them and put the other ones on. I have used some where it's supposed to do both, but I really feel like the vapor still gets in there. So the PPE, and then I'm also a little like, I don't always like my hands to get dirty because, I mean, or just like, I don't like them goofy. So I use gloves a lot of the time.
You've seen my arm underneath.
I know, right? Yeah, I use gloves.
My arm is all spray paint right here almost constantly.
I just don't like,
I put on a rubber glove and I hold it out and I spray paint it and it just goes on my arm.
So I also have just like a set of coveralls that are like my spray paint coveralls, so I'll throw those on, I'll throw some gloves on, I'll throw my mask on.
This is my spray tattoo.
Right, your spray tattoo. And then I also, as a wearer of glasses, I use an old pair of glasses so that I don't get like spray paint and stuff on my glasses, because it would stand to reason that I'm also clumsy, if you couldn't tell by my general demeanor. Yeah, I don't want to accidentally like spray my glasses.
Yeah, I do use, I spray houses for part of the contracting. So I do use my same respirator for that, for like spray paint. And
do you use PPE?
Sometimes. And I use that same one when I sand too.
Oh, okay.
So, it seems to work fine because ours is the little particulates of paint. They get
Gotcha, okay.
dunked up all in there. And so, at least, I would say anything is better than nothing.
Yes.
Even one of the little
Like
masks.
the
N95s.
N95s.
Yeah. Anything is better than nothing, and protecting your hands would probably be advisable. Same with glues or anything. If I'm gluing something, I don't usually use it because it's hard for me to manipulate the glue.
I don't use gloves.
But it sucks to get your fingers glued.
Yeah. Oh, like CA glue or contact glue?
Yeah, speaking of which, at 3 o'clock today, you can come see me get my fingers glued, because I guarantee you I'm going to get my fingers glued.
Yeah, all right.
But yeah, and is there any other questions?
Yeah, we have time for one more question if anyone has one. We were so on it.
Well, I'm
that
surprised
no
that
one
we were
had
really,
it.
really...
We did time-wise, perfect timing. You guys can walk out of here and incorporate 3D printing into foam builds, right? What, right? Yes, Danielle, yes!
That didn't sound very convincing.
That did not sound convincing, but...
Okay.
Okay, last question.
I've learned, or I've seen this method online. Have you ever 3D printed fabric?
I have not yet, but it is on the list.
I have messed with it a little bit. It's really tough to get right, but it does work. I think it would probably work better with TPU, as this gentleman over here said. But I've seen where you put down some screen mesh and you print, they're almost like dragon scales on it, and they will move with you. And I really want to try to do that for an armor piece at some point.
I think the key on that one, from kind of what I've looked into, is that you have to print like the first or second layer
and then put it in.
Pause it and then set it very carefully and make sure it stays
and it has to be not very thick, otherwise it won't.
They won't, because realistically what it's doing is it's melting, because FDM printers are melting plastic. That's essentially what it is. So you want it to, like, you want your glues to be able to soak into the fabric. You want your plastics to be able to melt and almost like enmesh themselves. Yes.
So
in that tool.
The way you got to picture 3D printing is it's a piece on top of another piece that almost glues itself to it through heat and seals it. It's not fully, because layers are weaker than a solid piece, but and in between that layer, you can imagine it grabbing that piece of fabric and gluing it to the bottom. And that's the same thing you wanted with the hot glue, where you grab those fibers. You want the same thing to happen, where it grabs the fibers and secures them in place. But I would suggest that you don't use a fabric that can't handle the heat. Make sure you do that before, like, do all your research before you do anything like that, because it could cause a fire or anything like that. As a disclaimer, I would do all my research first.
All right, well, with that, we have hit time. Thank you so much for listening to us yap about things that we love. And again, we are, Arizona Causeplay is our big group that we're here with. And then I am Husky Hubby Cosplay. I'm half of Husky Hubby Cosplay.
And I am Ravencraft Cosplay. And you did mention not having me in their pocket. Anybody can grab a card from our booth of mine, follow me on Instagram, and you can ask me any questions. I always answer back. It may take me a little time because regular full-time job, but I will answer back.
Cosplay is not your full-time job?
No. I wish.
Yeah, right? Same with us on Husky Hubby Cosplay. If you have any questions regarding foam, or like have seen something, you're like, hey, I remember that lady and she was pretty cool, message us.
Well, even advice on if you're trying to get into printing.
That too.
I can give you some examples of good printers in your price range. That's what I did for these
That
guys.
is actually, yeah, we had a pocket Kyle, and he was great for helping us get our 3D printer, and I, knock on wood, I don't know if this table's wood, have had a great time with our printer, no problems, so. Yeah, all right, well, thank you again, we hope that you enjoyed the rest of your con.
Yes, absolutely. And come see our booth and come stop by the round table if you want to see more like of the actual action of it.
Yep, and one last time, what's the answer?
Duct
tape!
Including in PPE.
Yes.
Duct tape.
Right. All right, thank you.
Yeah, hot glue. Hot glue is the end. It's one of those duct tape things, really.
Right? The duct tape of the crafter.
It is the duct tape of the crafter. I'm gonna take this off. So if you want to see an example of something, this is, I just got one of these.
Are you still streaming?